'twas a season for the unexplained. Mass confusion fell.
Yeah, the Finchley Boys, I didn't get to see them much in the heyday, but obviously George Faber, a fantastic performer, and Michael Powers, a great drummer, and somebody who is sort of overused. People say they have their own style, but nobody drums the way that he does. He really has a distinctive way of playing. He's, I would say, a real natural musician. Garrett Osteich, brilliant guitar player. So yeah, they were just great.
Well, the Finchley Boys got started. We were the first band called the Finchley Boys was at Urbana High School. A guy named Mark Warwick was a guitar player, and he got together with a guy named Jim Cole, who was the singer at the time, and he played some rhythm guitar. And then it added several different members. Michael Powers ended up being the drummer, and Larry Tabling, I think, was maybe the second bass player that they had, but it's been a while now, and I don't even remember the first guy's name. And I actually was just hanging around the band, but I played harmonica, so they wanted to do a Rolling Stone song. It had an address of Michigan Avenue. I think it was where Chet's Records Company is. And I can't remember the exact name of the song, but it was an instrumental. The harmonica was the lead instrument, so one song a night I'd play on that. And the crowd really responded well to it. And so little by little, then I started singing some of the songs.
I went to high school with a couple friends of mine that were musicians, Al Goldberg and Larry Minton. They'd had a band in high school called the Red Hots, and then we all went to school, different schools. Al came down to the U of I here in Champaign, and I went to school at ISU. Well, that next summer, we put an ad in the paper when we got back and said lead singer needed to play with quality musicians, and a guy named Brian Cook answered the ad. We put the band together with Brian Cook, and we came up with the name Somebody Groovy. We played around Chicago, and Al would travel up to the Chicago suburbs, and we'd play up there, and then Al would book jobs down here through Blythe Unlimited, and we would all travel down from Chicago down to Champaign, and we'd kind of go back and forth between playing up down here in Champaign on a weekend and up there in Chicago on a weekend. Long that near the end of the school year of '67, there was Blythe put on a big battle of the bands, and it was judged by the One-Eyed Jacks, and all the local bands played, and it turned out the winners, the two winning bands of the Battle of the Bands, were our band, Somebody Groovy, and then the band that George and Tabe were in, the Finchley Boys, was the other band, and we tied. So we went on, and so that was kind of cool, and we went back to Chicago. We had made the decision that we wanted to move down here and actually be based in Champaign. So in June of 1967, we actually moved, picked up everything, the little we had, and moved down to Champaign and started playing based out of here in that, just right then in June. So soon after that, we were approached by Bob Nutt, who wanted to talk to us about putting a plan together to expand the band. And what we did at that point, we agreed, went along with them, and we met with George and Tabe, because the Finchley Boys had broken up as Glenn, the drummer, had left the band. And so we added George Faber and Larry Tabling to the Somebody Groovy band, and we collectively moved out to a house out in northeast Urbana area called Brownfield Wood. We moved to a big house out there, and we decided to call the band Brownfield Wood.
They were completely different than the Finchley Boys. They were a harmony band, did songs by the Byrds and that kind of thing. And the guitar player, though, was really good. And he had a 12-string guitar and 6-string, but he played them both really well.
Larry Minton switched over to keyboards. Larry Tabling stayed on bass. Brian Cook and George Faber switched off as lead singers based upon the song. Goldberg stayed on drums, and I played all the lead guitar stuff. And so we worked out a lot of really great songs, and spent quite a while practicing, probably too long practicing. In retrospect, what we did is we took two real popular bands and that were playing, and then combined into one group that then went and practiced for a couple months and didn't play any jobs. So it made some challenges as we had no money coming in all of a sudden. So we practiced for several months, got ready to go, played a few gigs. Winter set in, wasn't any heat out at the house, out in the country. And I think so Larry and Al and Brian decided to head back to Chicago. I had decided to just stay down here because I liked the way the music scene was going on down here. George and Tabe thought they could reach out to Michael Powers and see if we could get him to join the band again. He had been their original drummer in the Finchley Boys. We got hold of Michael, started doing some practicing, and put the band together and decided to just use the name. Since there was 3 of them from the original Finchley Boys, we just decided to use that name and then moved on forward with that lineup.
The name Finchley Boys was taken from the back of a Kinks record cover. And back in those days with vinyl records, there was a lot to read. And I remember it was a story that Ray Davies, the founding member and the songwriter of the Kinks, said he was in a band. He and his brother actually were in a band called the Muzzies. And they got in a fight with the Finchley Boys. I don't even know why he told the story on the back of the cover, because the Finchley Boys weren't musicians, neither were the Muzzies, they were a street gang. Finchley is a part of London, I guess. I found that out later when we played, the Finchley Boys opened the show for Rod Stewart and the Spaces. And Rod, your name of the band is the Finchley Boys? He goes, I'm from Finchley, actually. And so I said, well, here's a button and it says Finchley Boys, and he wore it when he went on. So
moving forward from then in '68, we did a few of the tunes that they had written originally, added some other songs they were playing, incorporated some new songs that we wrote, some more blues tunes, and then we continued on playing from that point with that lineup, doing some recordings and literally playing out in New York, playing some in Canada, and just playing all around the area until the end of summer of 1970, and then that's when Michael left the band. We picked up a drummer named Frank Garvey, who is still an artist and a musician still to this very day. He's out in San Francisco. He played with us for 3 or 4 months, and then we picked up a guy originally from Chicago named Billy Shaw, and he played with us through the end of 1971. And that kind of was the Finchley Boy lineup that was more the 4-man, 4-piece band, kind of like as we had started in '68. Then in '72, we started doing some more recordings and added Paulie Carmen started playing with the band. He brought in Willie Dale on bass, and Ginevra Shirley started playing violin and piano with us. And we continued on till Paulie left in late '73, early '74, replaced by Bobby Carlin on drums, and that lasted till I think July of 1974, and then that was the end of any of the band that was called the Finchley Boys.
Well, all of the Chicago blues stuff was a big influence on me, and I kind of came into that through the way a lot of us white kids did. We listened to the Rolling Stones and the Animals and the Yardbirds and people like that, and you read on the back of the covers that they were influenced by Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and everything, Chicago blues, and you go, Chicago blues, wow, I live close to Chicago. So then you start looking into that a little bit, and I used to make little pilgrimages up to Chicago and buy a train ticket. At the time you could get a train ticket pretty cheap, and this, when I was about 17 or so, and me and several guys that were into the blues and stuff would go hang out on Maxwell Street. We weren't old enough to get in the bars, but we'd stand outside and listen to stuff and then stay at the Y and that kind of thing. So that whole Chicago blues scene was a big influence on me. And there was just other bands, I don't know if they were that here in town, that weren't necessarily an influence on me, but the fact that there were people playing gigs and making money at it, you go, well, I love music and I maybe could do this. I think there's a little bit of Champaign Urbana in everything I do. Just it's the prairie, Midwest, the whole atmosphere here. Just it's close enough to Chicago to have a strong blues influence, and it's also just got something. I've always sort of shied away from country music, but there is a ruralness about it, you know. So you add that with the Chicago electric blues, and there's a lot of what my music is about.
All right, I want you to come up much closer now and give me a little hand.